This is the Gundestrup cauldron, found in Denmark, in what was the land of the Cimbri. And this, being Celtic in its artistry, along with the name of these people being vaguely similar to Cymru, the native name for Wales, a country with a Celtic language, is enough for some people to say that these people had a Celtic origin, and culture, even language. I'm Benjamin Angwin, and in this video I want to dispel this absurd myth. There is no way these people were Celtic. Let's start with where these people actually lived. Ancient writers placed the Cimbri in the far north of what is now Denmark, the upper tip of Jutland, the Jutland Peninsula. A fine place from what I understand. The land the Greek geographer Strabo and the Roman naturalist Pliny both called the Cimbric Chersonese, using the old word for peninsula. That's roughly the modern region of Himmerland and the northern reaches of Jutland, between the North Sea and the Baltic. And we will discuss that name in a moment, but this puts the Cimbri right in the heartland of what every strand of evidence, archaeological, linguistic, and written, treats as not only early Germanic-speaking territory, but part of the core regions of where the Germanic languages came from in the first place. Not the Rhineland, not Gaul, nor anywhere near the Celtic-speaking world of its day. They were northern neighbors of the Celts, trading with them, sometimes fighting with them or alongside them in mercenary armies. But they were not among them in terms of where they came from. This cauldron was not made by them, and that tells us another part of the story. Germanic peoples moved around a lot and brought things back home too. History shows us, from the Visigothic era of Spain to Iceland and remnants of Germanic languages in Russia. Now to the name itself, since that's where this whole myth begins. Scholars are not fully settled on where Cimbri, the name, comes from. A few threads get pulled on. One ties it to an old Germanic root meaning raider or warrior, the same root that gives Old English kempa, a fighting man, and a later word for camp. I've seen surnames with this actually in England. Another ties it to the regional name Himmerland itself, the very patch of Jutland where they are placed, meaning the name may simply be a homeland name, rather than anything to do with warfare or identity. Now, Himmerland may reflect a Germanic sound shift that we know happened. Take the word in English horse and its Danish cognate, hest. These both come from an Indo-European root, kers, meaning to run. You can see how a running horse might be called that thing that runs, I don't know. From the same word we got the Celtic Gaulish word karos, meaning chariot, which is where we get the word car, like you drive a car. In the Germanic language, or Germanic languages, this ke or ke shifted to he or he. The region of Himmerland may simply mean the land of the Cimbri. We don't actually know. Both ideas on what Himmerland means sit well inside the Germanic language family. Neither has anything to do with Wales or Celtic languages. Here's the thing. People who say Cimbri sounds like Cymru What they never mention is we actually know where Cymru comes from, and it's not Iron Age old. The Welsh word for Wales and Cymru for the Welsh people comes from a Brythonic root word, Cwmbrogi, meaning fellow countrymen. Literally, com, together, plus brogos, land or region, giving modern Welsh bro. It means compatriots. And I find this really interesting because compatriota in Latin is only found after around year 200 in the late Principate era, the beginnings of the Roman Empire really, after Lower Britain had been absorbed into the empire, but compatriota only becomes common during the breakup of the empire. I guess people are trying to bring it together. The exact moment when Britons were forced to think of themselves, as a people, that Cymbrogos, being so similar in structure to a Latin word which was becoming popular at that exact historical moment at the end of the Roman Empire, suggests Cwmbrogi is a calque, a borrowed phrase taken from Vulgar Latin and translated directly into Welsh. Historian John Davies thought this word would have been in place by at least the year 580, certainly, or well used by that point, when the Hen Ogledd, the Old North, and Wales were being forced apart, and both forms of Welsh had a word like this, which points to this word coming out of the post-Roman chaos. Cwmbrogi, compatriots, fellow Welsh people, Cymru. It's a term of shared belonging. And the reason why I went into this, the name Cymru only starts showing up even as a self-description centuries after the Cymru were dead and long gone. Closer to the 7th century, once the Britons north and west of the growing English kingdoms needed a word for us, the people who still share a tongue and a land. It has no link whatsoever to any older tribal name. The rupture with Rome was so traumatic, so bloody, so economically disruptive, so horrible, that it is what formed the Welsh nation, the Cymru. It's not descended from Cimbri, and Cymru is not from it. It's a coincidence of sound between two words separated by 7 or even 800 years, and two completely different language branches. And coincidence of sound between unrelated words happen all the time. The Dacian language of pre-Roman Romania has no relation to German Deutsch or the Dutch people, other than both being Indo-European. It would be as if, centuries from now, historians found a people who were called Canadians, who invited millions of immigrants into their country, which destroyed Canada, and because a few of these immigrants were of an Indic or Dravidian Indian people called Canada, speaking a Dravidian language, they said this is where the Canadians come from, and said they were the same people. It's absurd. That's the entire weight being placed on this myth, that two words happen to be similar. It helps to look at the company the Cimbri kept. You can know a man by his friends, because the names around them confirm the picture rather than muddy it. They went south, they walked, they marched south alongside two other peoples, the Teutones and the Ambrones. Teutones comes straight from a Germanic root, meaning the people or the folk. the same root that gives German its word for itself, Deutsch, and gives us the English word Teutonic. That's about as German as it gets. Now, there is a genuine wrinkle in the story worth being honest about, because there is another word that some people who promote this theory use. One king in the time who fought Rome, recorded by Roman writers as a king of the Cimbri, as Boiorix. This carries an ending Rix and Boio. Both of this is Celtic, not Germanic. So what's going on here? It's the same element you find in Celtic royal names across Gaul, and it's related to the Latin word for king as well, rex. Celtic and Latin are very close linguistically, historically at least. And a few other names for Cimbric leaders recorded in the Roman period show similar Celtic-looking endings, borrowed from words for Celtic military stuff. Does that make the Cimbri Celtic? No. And the reason why is instructive. Names travel across language borders far more easily than whole peoples or nations or whole tongues do. The Cimbri lived and moved for generations along the edge of the Celtic world, trading, raiding, occasionally intermarrying with Celtic nations like the Boii. See my video on them. The Boii people left their name on Bohemia and on Bavaria. No one would say today that Bohemia and Bavaria are Celtic. When a Germanic warband takes on a name element or a loanword from prestigious Celtic-speaking neighbours, that tells us about contact and fashion among an elite group, not about the everyday tongue or the ancestry of an entire folk. We have to remember that before Rome, north of the Alps, it was the Celtic culture which was fashionable for rulers to adopt. Celtic was posh and refined, the culture of kings, increasingly probably their poets. English and Scots are both full of French. That doesn't make these sibling Anglic peoples French. A borrowed royal name ending is a footnote about a cultural contact and prestige, not a reason for reclassifying a whole people. The Cimbri come into clear written history because of their war with Rome, and it is worth being honest that almost everything we know about them comes from the winning side, Rome, writing decades or even centuries after their defeat. Around 113 BCE, the Cimbri and their allies crushed a Roman army under the consul Papirius Corbo near Norea in what's now Austria. Rome kept sending armies north and kept losing. The low point came in the year 105 at Arusio in southern Gaul, where 2 Roman armies were annihilated in a single day. These guys nearly wiped out the Republic. It was still a republic, just. Ancient writers give casualty figures in the tens of thousands, numbers almost certainly inflated in the retelling, but the scale of the disaster was real enough to be remembered with genuine fear in Rome for a generation. It took the general Gaius Marius, reforming the Roman legions along the way, to finally break them. The Teutones and the Embrones at Aquae Sixtii in 102 BCE, and the Cimbri themselves the following year, at Vercellae, where King Boiorix died in battle. Now writers like Livy, Plutarch, and the historian Florus all cover this war, and it's from this Roman military and political record, not from any Celtic and Germanic source, we have to remember that we get most of our detail. Crucially, the Roman historian Tacitus, writing his account of the Germanic peoples about 200 years later, places the Cimbri clearly among the tribes of Germania. He doesn't really distinguish between Germany and Denmark that much. He even remarks with a certain dry wonder on how such a small people once left such a vast and terrifying scar on Rome in their name behind them. And he mentions a bronze vessel of theirs sent as an offering to the Emperor Augustus, kept as a curiosity of a once great and now diminished nation. Which brings us back to the cauldron I opened with. I'm not saying it's the same one, but it's still such an artifact. The Gundestrup cauldron is a real and extraordinary object, decorated in the visual style of Latin art, the artistic glory of the Celtic world, showing figures like the horned god Cernunnos. It was found in a peat bog in Himmerland, Cimbric territory. But nothing ties it by writing or by any ancient account to the Cimbri as a people. And archaeologists more and more see it as an import or a piece made by traveling Celtic or even Thracian silversmiths in payment, or carried north as a plunder, trade goods, or a diplomatic gift, then buried as an offering to their gods perhaps. So many valuable metalworks were buried in the wetlands of the north exactly this way. A beautiful foreign object turning up in someone's land tells us that the Cimbri had contact with the Celtic world and valued Celtic craftsmanship enough to acquire it. Just as Roman coins turn up across free Germania tell us about trade and contact with Rome, not that the Germans who held back this empire were secretly Romans themselves. No. Material imports do not change your cultural origins. Does my Samsung phone make me... Is it Korean? The last piece of this, and to my mind the most telling, is simply how these people moved, because Celtic and Germanic peoples did not migrate in the same way, and the Cimbri moved across the land like Germans do. Take the Helvetii, who were in present-day Switzerland, a Celtic-speaking people as Julius Caesar describes them at length at the very start of his war commentaries, the Gallic Wars. Before the Helvetii ever crossed their own border, they spent 2 full years preparing, gathering supplies, arranging with neighbouring tribes for safe passage, and for land, discussing, and only then, burning their own 12 towns and 400 villages behind them, so that no one could be tempted to go back. They discussed things. When Caesar's men later captured the Helveti's own tally lists, they recorded the migration clan by clan, with a careful count of fighting men set against in a tally again, against the old men, the women, and the children. An orderly, negotiated, almost bureaucratic operation done by endless committees. Very Welsh. A confederation of clans moving as organized units with the ground already prepared ahead of them. The Cimbri, on the other hand, and their allies looked nothing like that. Ancient writers describe a whole nation on the move. Men, women, children, the old, their wagons and carts, their horses, their bulls, their chickens, and their herds together, driven out, so the story went, by the flooding of their homeland on the North Sea coast, wandering for years through Central Europe, before ever reaching Roman territory, zigzagging, not orderly, fighting people as they went, absorbing others. They absorbed the Teutones and the Ambrones along the way rather than negotiating with them as separate treaty partners. There is no advance settlement. They themselves don't even know where they're going. No careful clan-by-clan tally. No prepared land waiting at the far end of the horizon. It is a whole nation, uprooted and thrown onto the road, which is precisely the pattern we see again and again in later, clearly Germanic migrations. Whole peoples in motion together, not clans sent ahead to pave a nice, smooth road. Two neighbouring worlds, one Celtic and one Germanic, who move in entirely different fashions. And the Cimbri sit comfortably in the Germanic way of doing things. So, I'm not convinced by these theories. A name that only sounds like Cimbri by accident, borrowed from a Brythonic word that did not even exist when the Cimbri were alive. A homeland in Jutland, in a country every single source says was Germanic and still is, Denmark, if they get migration under control for their demographic security. Neighbors named Teutones with a clear Germanic identity. A war recorded by Rome that places them again and again and again among the northern peoples, not the Gauls or the Boii. A cauldron that shows contact with the Celtic world, not membership of it. And a migration that moved like every other Germanic folk wandering before or after. The Cimbri were not Celtic. They were a Germanic people who happened to, for a few violent years, to terrify and to nearly destroy the Roman Republic, which again fits more in line with the Germans, and whose name 20 centuries later happens to rhyme with the native name for the beautiful country I live in, Cimbri. If you would like to support the channel, why not buy me a coffee, leave a super like, leave a comment to let me know what you thought, and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much for watching.